As we inch ever closer to the upcoming The Batman release, I will be reviewing every solo Batman film to date in chronological order, except for the 1966 Batman, because, well, I don't want to, and I don't have it on Blu-ray. So in today's video, we will be looking at the 1989 Batman. I'll share my thoughts on the movie as well as what you get with the most recent 4K Blu-ray release. So if that sounds good to you, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel so you know when I post the rest of the reviews. With that aside, let's jump right in. All right, Batman 89 came out in 1989. It was written by Sam Hamm and Warren Scarron, who you might know from also writing Beverly Hills Cop 2, which is a guilty pleasure of mine, and Beetlejuice. The movie was directed by none other than the great Tim Burton and starred Michael Keaton as Batman, Kim Basinger as Vicky Vale, and Jack Nicholson as the Joker. If I had to describe the movie in a single word, it would be groundbreaking. Going back in time to 1989, it really set up the whole possibility for a dark, adult, live-action superhero movie. Without Batman 89, I honestly don't believe there is a Logan or a Watchmen or possibly any real modern comic book movies as we know them today. Prior to this release, all we really had was the Adam West Batman TV show and the 66 movie, which were good in their own right, but just not really what we've come to know and love about modern comic book movies. I mean, Batman straight up shoots people in this movie, which is one of my complaints about it, but still, it is dark. Definitely not aimed at kids, although 80s kids were a bit different. Tim Burton really has his fingerprints all over the movie. The world feels very noir. Like the most recent Batman movies we've seen, it's based in our world, maybe a gritty New York or Chicago kind of vibe, but it's detached enough from reality to feel comic booky. I don't know if comic booky is a word, but it is now. Somebody call Webster. Now, full disclosure, I am not the biggest Tim Burton fan. It might sound a little mean, but I find some of his movies to be a bit pretentious. I don't know if that's the right word, but to me, he often comes off as, oh, everybody come look how different I am. Like, I get it, my guy. You wore black in high school and you love The Cure. So does everybody else. I'm sorry, that is mean. That being said, I really do think that his Tim Burton standard flair really works for this movie. You know, for the most part. I don't know what was going on with the whole Prince infusion. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Prince apparently did an entire concept album for this movie, and they sprinkled in his music pretty blatantly throughout it. I mean, look, I love Prince as much as the next guy, but it definitely felt just out of place. That aside, the overall vibe of Gotham and the movie as a whole is really great. I love what they did with the city. I love Batman's costume, although it looks hella impractical. The homie is like just engulfed in rubber. Also, this Batmobile is my Batmobile. Although, like the suit, it is completely impractical. I mean, you are not taking any sharp turns in that bad boy, but it looks sick. I also really dug Michael Keaton as Batman. I know back in 89, he got a lot of flack when he was cast, but I think for what he had to work with, he really nailed it. That said, I do think Batman in this movie was a bit underwritten. He didn't really have much character development or really a real motivation, but I like that they made it very clear that in some ways he is just as insane as some of the villains.
Lights out! Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Speaking of the villains, this is a Jack Nicholson movie. No doubt, he is fantastic as the Joker.
Wait till they get a load of me.
And just the fact that to this day, we are comparing him to current versions of the Joker and debating whether or not he's the best one. I feel like that's really telling. I really feel like Jack Nicholson was born to play this role. It seems like they just took his personality and cranked it up to 11. Overall, with the movie, really great performances all around. They built a really groundbreaking world, and the story is reasonable in that it gives you some of that 80s comic camp as well as some noir Batman vibes without going too overboard in either direction. I absolutely recommend you check this one out. All right, now before we get into the 4K disc itself and all the special features, if you are enjoying this video, please click that little like button down there. It really helps the channel grow. Also, consider joining me on my climb to complete and utter YouTube domination by subscribing to the channel. It would really mean a lot. All right, as far as the disc is concerned, I have the most recent 4K release, which is absolutely the way to go. The movie has been completely remastered in 4K HDR, which I think looks great. Now, I'm not really one to get super nitpicky about picture quality, so if you want a more detailed breakdown of the picture, I'm gonna link a video below for you. It's my homie over at Films at Home. Of course, I don't know if he knows that he's my homie, but I'm officially calling him my homie. And yeah, he goes way more into depth about the specific changes from the Blu-ray to the 4K release. But either way, I think the 4K looks really, really good. Also on the 4K disc, you have your Dolby Atmos track, which is very well laid out. It really uses the surround and the overhead speakers. So if you have them, it is the best way to listen to the movie. All right, now on to special features. If you're like me and you are obsessed with the filmmaking process, they go absolutely ham with the bonus content here. I'll quickly break down everything you get on the disc. Warning, it is a lot. All right, first up, you get a commentary track by Tim Burton. It's pretty chill, mostly just him reminiscing on the whole process, explaining, what he did and why. You also have a pretty short feature here. It's called On the Set with Bob Kane. Bob Kane is one of the creators of Batman, and it's essentially him talking about what led him to create this version of Batman, as well as his thoughts on the casting of Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson and the movie in general. You have a very long featurette on here called The Legends of the Dark Knight, The History of Batman, which is essentially what you think it is. It is narrated by Mark Hamill, and you have a bunch of writers and historians. You have Bob Kane himself, Stan Lee, Frank Miller, Kevin Smith, and a few others breaking down the entire history of Batman from the comics to the TV and animated series. You also have another very long featurette on here. It is called Shadows of the Bat, the Cinematic Saga of the Dark Knight, parts 1 through 3. So it's a multi-part documentary. I believe there are additional parts on the subsequent movie, Batman Returns, and that includes your general cast and crew interviews. It's all about the process of creating the 1989 Batman, from conceptualization to pre-production to filming and beyond. There's another couple short features called Batman the Heroes and the Villains, and those are going over each of the characters in the movie, just a few minutes long each, kind of giving you a general overview of those characters. Then you have a 45-minute featurette called Beyond Batman. No, it's not Batman Beyond, it's Beyond Batman. And that is a series of production featurettes, one about production design, one about the Batmobile, there's one on Batman's gadgets, the Batsuit, the Joker transformation, and one about the music of the film. Of course, the composer of Batman was Danny Elfman, which they don't really talk a lot about on this disc in the bonus content, except for this featurette. So if you want to know a little bit about that, definitely check it out. Then we have a short featurette that is called Batman: The Complete Robin Storyboard Sequence. There was a portion of the movie that was storyboarded but not included in the movie that involved Robin's kind of origin story, and they give you a full storyboard that is voiced by some of the people from the animated series. I know I definitely heard Mark Hamill in that, so it's just kind of cool to see where the movie could have gone and what they removed from it. Aside from that, you have kind of your standard theatrical trailer, which in most movies I don't really care to see on the disc, but since this is kind of a piece of history, it's nice to see what the original theatrical trailer was from back in 1989. Finally, there are a few Prince music videos, which I watched, and I have no words. They were weird. Very, very weird. The 80s were a strange time. And that's it. That is everything you get on the disc. Again, I highly, highly recommend picking up this movie if you're a Batman fan, if you're a Tim Burton fan, or if you're just a fan of comic book movies and movie history. It is definitely worth the purchase. But let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. And if you want to see the rest of my Batman reviews leading up to the upcoming The Batman movie, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I also have a complete playlist right over here with all my Blu-ray reviews if you want to check those out. Maybe you can get some recommendations from it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video. Be good.